I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Vecchio.
Here.
Councilman McCarthy. Here. Councilman Wareheim.
Here.
Councilman Creighton.
Here.
And Councilman Malloy.
He said here.
He's here.
Okay, we're going to have a small public hearing, which should take only a few minutes prior to the larger public hearing. So this public hearing will be for the town board to consider the year 30, 2013 Community Development Program.
Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Elaine Leonard. I'm the principal planner in the Planning and Community Development Department. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to elicit comment on the request for funding for the upcoming Community Development Program year that begins in April of 2013 and to provide information about the process of choosing projects for that program year. The town of Smithtown is a member of the Suffolk County Consortium. As such, our proposed projects are submitted to the county for their approval and inclusion in the county's official submission to HUD, that is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. County's request must be ready in early January for a 30-day public review period, so we and the other consortium members must have our request ready shortly so that the county can complete the processing on schedule. You have before you a list of possible activity categories and their suggested budget ranges. We will forward a list of proposed projects prior to the board's meeting on December 11th for adoption at that meeting. The total likely funding is expected to be $230,000, which is less than we have received in the past several years because the county expects to receive less funding from HUD. Therefore, the budget ranges suggested will look familiar, though decreased from previous years. The actual total funding will not be known until late in the spring of 2013 when HUD announces its actual allocation to the county. In considering projects for our program, we must make sure that two major requirements are satisfied. First, every project must qualify as a designated eligible activity such as housing rehabilitation, infrastructure improvement, or handicapped access improvements. Second, every project must meet one of the three specifically defined CD program objectives. These are benefit to low and moderate income persons, prevention or elimination of slums, blighting conditions, or meeting an urgent community development need, which means activities such as cleanup of storm damage or other disaster repairs. Standards for each of these objectives are defined in detail in federal rules and directives that outline additional restrictions on the eligibility of projects. That concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
No, thank you. Anyone in the audience have any question on this matter? Then I'll move to close the hearing.
Second. Supervisor Vecchio.
Yes?
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilman Wareheim.
Yes.
Councilman Creighton.
Yes.
Councilman Malloy.
Yes.
Okay, the next public hearing is as follows. The town board to consider the draft environmental impact statement as prepared by the firm of Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees for the uplands at St. John Land, change of zone petition 2007-04, and amendments to Chapter 322 of the Code of the Town entitled Building Zone Ordinance as it relates to congregate care facilities and continuing care retirement community. Someone going to address us on it? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and members of the Town Board. My name is Howard Barton, Assistant Environmental Protection Director of the Town of Smithtown. As you know, on October 2nd, 2012, this board accepted as complete for purposes of SEQRA review a draft environmental impact statement regarding two separate but related matters: proposed amendments to Chapter 322 of the Smithtown Town Code as it relates to congregate care facilities and continuing care retirement community, and secondly, change of zone petition number 2007-04 for a site-specific proposed continuing care retirement community known as the Uplands at St. Johnland. Notice of completion of the draft EIS and notice of public hearing were published in the October 4th, 2012 edition of the Smithtown Messenger, the official newspaper of the town of Smithtown, and in the New York State Environmental Notice Bulletin as required by the New York State SEQRA regulations. Copies of the accepted draft environmental impact statement have been available for public review for approximately 8 weeks, both on the town's website and as hard copies available at local libraries and at the Department of Environment and Waterways. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to solicit questions and comments from the public regarding the draft environmental impact statement. It is not intended to provide on-the-spot answers or responses to questions and comments. Rather, all questions and comments received during this public hearing, as well as all written questions or comments received by the lead agency through December 10th, 2012, will be responded to in writing in the form of a final environmental impact statement. Upon completion and acceptance of the final environmental impact statement by the town board, it will be distributed for further public review and comment. A public comment period will be provided during which interested persons will be able to review the final environmental impact statement and submit further written comments for consideration by the town board. Upon the close of the public comment period on the final environmental impact statement and the board's consideration of all comments received, the town board will adopt and issue written SECRA findings regarding these matters. This concludes my brief overview of where we are in the SECRA review of these matters. Thank you.
Okay, there are many people wishing to be heard. There was a 3-minute limit on one's dialogue and, or monologue, I should say. And so we'd ask that you abide by that. There are quite many people who want to be heard. So the first person here is Joyce Berger. Is she here? Oh, here she is. Okay.
Hi, I'm a resident of Kings Park, and,
Ma'am, you
My
have to,
home-
ma'am, you have to address the comments this way.
okay,
Okay.
does my time reset?
Yes, reset.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Kings Park. We moved in last July, and we moved into this town because although it's on a very crowded, small island, it has a small town feel. And everybody seems to know each other. People are friendly. There's plenty of woods. My children run in the woods, and they play, and they take their mountain bikes, and they go, and they go on the trails. And it's like an island in amongst the crowds in Long Island. And I feel that if this project were to go through, and it would change the entire character of the town. There would be tons of traffic. My children wouldn't be able, wouldn't be able to see the stars at night. There would be a lot of noise. There would be a lot of lights. There would be a lot of activity. There would be the whole corridor which connects the wildlife between the two beautiful Sunken Meadow Park and Nissequogue River Park. The wildlife would be gone. That whole section which connects those two is the area in question right here, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. In any case, I just wanted to register as a taxpayer that I am not in favor of this project. And I will do anything that I can within the law to halt it from moving forward. And I'm going to leave that minute for somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you. You have to appease me if I say your name wrong. Some of the writing is difficult. Is this Constantine Flanos?
Good evening, council members. My name is Tom Vlahos, and I live on Hilden Street in Kings Park. I've lived in Kings Park for 42 years. Previously, I lived on 7th Avenue. I am an RN. My wife is a nurse practitioner. My sister is a nurse. I've had cancer. My wife has cancer. and my sister is pre-diagnosed with such. My mother and father, who lived on 7th Avenue, died of cancer in Kings Park. I am distressed at the thought of having this Uplands community put up. In lieu of the fact that we have an incinerator and we have a dump, the takedown of more trees is going to leave us with more pollution that will then cause even more cancers to occur in Kings Park. I don't think that we need additional sewage in the vicinity that we have right now. I ask you to please consider the fact that further development may kill more people in this town. I am a volunteer also at Good Shepherd Hospice. I'm giving back to my community as I've always given back. And I've taken care of an awful lot of cancer patients in Kings Park and in nearby areas. So I ask you, on behalf of myself, my family, to care about us as much as I've cared about you. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Story.
Good evening. This is obviously off topic for tonight's agenda, but I'm still regards to the pump station.
Well, you
generator.
really shouldn't be talking about the pump station.
I didn't
This
know if it was
meeting is-
exclusive to that.
Allow me to finish. This meeting is limited to
Okay.
comments or questions regarding the draft environmental statement.
Okay.
At the end of this, you can come and talk about your, okay? Thank you, Michael. Is this Dorian Berger? Dorian Berger? Rose Palazzolo? Oh, I'm sorry. We can't vote for this issue. She's not even on this matter.
It's a beautiful Saturday morning. My brother and I jumped on our bikes for a ride to the forest to explore a new trail. I know exactly where to go. We headed to the garage, the crisp fresh air kissing our face. We pedal as quickly as we can, eager to escape our problems. At the end of the street, I angle my bike and head into the trail. My brother and I skitter around on the sand, but we don't care. Chipmunks and squirrels appear at random in the brush. We head toward the new trail. It couldn't be described in mere words. The trail was right next to the singing birds and the river, and my eyes lit up. That light lasted for the rest of the day. I walked outside again at night. I made a wish on a shooting star. That night, I wished that this amazing place would stay forever, unchanged. I stayed out for a while, enjoying the unearthly sky. I just want to keep it that way, and I really, really love the woods, and I don't want to bike along the sewage pipes. I don't want to smell the sewage, and I want to see the night sky. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Marcellaro.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and town board members. My name is Richard Massalaro, and I've been a homeowner for the last 22 years. In that time, I have seen very little difference in Smithtown. Now, that's not a criticism, but a fact. Nevertheless, therein lies the problem. Nothing is different about Smithtown. There has been some developments here and there, a few businesses, but more have closed shop or moved away. Some streets have been repaved, and much more need to be redone. Lots of open space, but less few homes. My point is there is a lack of planning for the future growth and development of Smithtown. A master plan has been in the works for years. Where is it? This past June, the American Planning Association conducted a national poll and found that 2/3 of Americans believe their community needs more planning to promote economic development. Why hasn't a finished master plan been presented to the residents for their input and comment? When will a master plan be completed? I raise this issue because if a modernized master plan was in effect, a proposal such as the one that's before you this evening, and perhaps others, would be simple enough to act on or vote on. A master plan would have long ago determined that a development such as this is either in the best interest of Smithtown or it's not. But because of a lack of a master plan, when proposals such as this is presented, we must endure countless community informational meetings, planning board reviews, environmental impact studies, and the old standby, the BS. That's short for bureaucratic shuffle. It's not the town's responsibility, it's the feds or the state's or the county's problem. A master plan enacted with input from the community leaders, community civic associations, and professional planners is long overdue. Lastly, in the last few days, both local and metropolitan area newspaper articles have commented on the merits of the Smithtown Planning Board. An editorial in the Smithtown Times said, "We see several leaders in the town who believe that old methods and a slow pace must make way for progress in order for Smithtown to thrive. But that requires a change of mindset and an overhaul of town code procedure. Government in general moves at a snail's pace, and while regulations, orders, and procedures are needed, the system can be slimmed down to only the necessary." I agree. Other news articles have reported that the town board is considering changing town code to expedite site plan process for developers to move forward with constructions. To quote, "As part of our ongoing streamlining of our land use in this town." I also agree. I'd just like to say that if this proposal meets the town board requirements and the environmental impact statements and does not have an adverse effect on the community, I think you should vote for it. Thank you.
Robert Trotter.
Supervisor Vecchio, town board members, thanks for having me here today. I'm here to say that I'm 100% behind this project. I think it's a good thing. I think that the town needs something like it, maybe not exactly like it, but I'm here to tell you emphatically, not at this location. You're all Republicans. There's a Republican state senator, a Republican state assemblyman. It would seem to me that 100 yards away, there's a state hospital property that's abandoned, torn down, that you could work together and get this project moved 100 yards away. These carpenters deserve the work, the electricians deserve the work, but just not in a location that's so pretty and beautiful like that. Since I was a little kid, my father drove me down that road, and I drive my son down that road, and I hope one day he can drive his son down the road. You're going to hear from people who are a lot smarter than me that's going to give you the reasons why, the wetlands and all that. But from a moral point of view, you are elected officials. You have a responsibility to find the correct answer, save that woodland, save that pond, and just move it 200 yards away. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl Peterson.
Good evening. I come here tonight to discuss the subject of the leaching field. The leaching field for the additional volume of sewerage is proposed on a 5-acre parcel of land north of Sunken Meadow Road. The positive declaration for the project dated December 18th, 2007, is deficient because no mention is made of the use of this land as a leaching field. Since the positive declaration does not stipulate this parcel cannot be used for such purposes. Attached, you will find the comments in a copy I will leave with you, dated December 18th, 2007. Without a leaching field for the sewerage, this project cannot go forward. A positive declaration must identify the potential significant adverse environmental impacts that require the preparation of an environmental impact statement and state whether the scoping will be conducted. That's my final statement. I will submit my report
Thank
to
you.
you. Thank you very much.
Ernie Kraus.
I'm Ernie Grice, Smithtown. Good evening, supervisors. Good evening, town board. I have to speak in support of the project. Nothing ever gets done in Smithtown. First, self-interest scuttled the Erickson project. You may remember they were going to take care of part of the buildings in the Kings Park and build a large outfit for senior housing. And then the next thing, when selfish interest, the YMCA was scuttled. That would have been a good project for Smithtown. Now we have another project that seems to be on the way out. Now, I'm kind of, I live here long enough, about almost 60 years. So nothing really has changed too much. Now, if anybody, like the one gentleman that was quoted in the newspaper about his 50 acres backyard. Now, if he wants a private 50-acre backyard, he should go out and buy one. I mean, you cannot deny somebody else's property from being developed, whichever way it's done. And the sewer, I'm sure the sewage problem, it's a technical problem. I'm sure that can be solved by the engineers and whoever. Now, I'm in full support of it, and it's time. Not only this, just wonder if the opponents of this thing ever went anywhere. Did anybody ever go to Jefferson Ferry? There is no traffic. That traffic business, that's just a lot of BS. There is no traffic. Go out there and sit there on the road for a few hours and see that there are elderly people. So, all right, so you have people coming for a shift in the workforce. If this 50 acres would be developed in housing, you could get 50 to 100 houses in there. You get plenty of traffic there too. But otherwise, there's no traffic. That's a lot of baloney. And did anybody ever go out to Peconic Landing? That's another one, convenient care outfits. There's a waiting list of 100 people. They want to have a one-bedroom place. Now the thing is, the one in Amsterdam, the one in oh God, where is it? In Port Washington, that's a super upscale place. They have a little trouble because their bonds lost about 10% of the value, where the other ones, their value went up. So they're good projects, they're good places for people to live. And there's no reason you can't have one nearby for the people that are around here. Instead of going out of town, if anybody wants to check out those places, all right, you gotta go to Jersey to see the place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carrie O'Farrell. Carrie O'Farrell? No? Robert Cicero?
Supervisor Vecchio, Board. My name is Robert Cicero. I live at 25 Oak Hill Lane in Kings Park. I've been a resident for 44 years. I moved to Kings Park mainly because of two reasons. One, of its sylvan atmosphere. The other is the reputation of the Smithtown Board in being environmentally conscious. To do anything with this area now would be a complete reversal of the town board's history. As a commercial developer for the last 40-some-odd years, I know that any time I've tried to do anything, or any of my associates tried to do anything within this town, and it was an environmentally sensitive area, there was no question about it, there was no review, there was no changing of zoning, there was no changing or appealing of anything. It was just a no. I implore you to do the same now. To destroy this property, and particularly with its environmental issues, would be a travesty. The project itself, you can call it anything you want, it's a commercial project going on land that's zoned for private housing. We're going from 20 units that could be built on the property to 500 and some odd, or whatever the astronomical number is.
200.
What did?
200.
200, excuse me. I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. My point is that, as somebody else brought up before, we've got the hospital property right next door. There's been similar proposals that I had seen that were turned down because they weren't feasible, or the monies weren't there on the state property. That's the place to be putting this project. No, there's no question it could be used. It's needed in the area, but certainly not on that location. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne Sorigliano.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Sorigliano. I'm representing Audubon, primarily for Harbors Audubon, which is the local Audubon chapter. I am I'm the co-chair for conservation. I'm also the projects coordinator for things that go on in our particular Audubon chapter. I'm also very, very aware of the different state parks that we have that are nearby, and I basically keep an eye on the whole, what we call the IBA, the Important Birding Area. This piece of property is very close to the IBA. This piece of property is very close to two BCAs. BCAs are bird conservation areas that are known by New York State. Right now, everything that I've heard here from the townspeople is actually quite accurate. I also, by the way, live in Kings Park, so I am aware of the property itself. I've walked on the property. It has a nice little right-of-way that goes right past the pond. The pond is, I'm going to call it an ecologically sensitive area, because there are reptiles, amphibians, actually mostly amphibians that live in there that will lay their eggs in the water. And we don't have too many of these left. That's the first part. The second part is, there are a lot of trees on that property. Every tree that you have out there is a carbon sink, which basically means that it's taking carbon out of the atmosphere, making the atmosphere a little bit cooler. You've heard of climate change. This is one of these, climate change kind of issues. And it sounds really stupid because it's only 50 acres, who cares? But if we keep taking those trees down, if we don't start, trying to plan for the future, and every time we take one down, sort of like Peconic has a land trust. Every time they take something down, they put another one right back up again to make sure that it stays, the way it should be, to keep the environment balanced. The more that we keep the environment unbalanced, the more problems we have with, I say hurricanes, but hurricanes. Also, the weather systems that we've been having lately, it all comes down to, human-induced climate change. The more we change this, the more that we take this and develop these properties, the more we have to worry about, our future on this planet. And unfortunately, I hate to be the one who's going to be, saying this up here, because I was asked to come here tonight. But the property in question is heavily wooded. There is a perfect property not 200 yards away, Building 93 on the Nisqually River State Park lands, which actually really isn't the park, but it's the psychiatric center. It's right there. You walk down the end of that road, and there's that building. And it's right across the street from, right there. If they could just develop that land, which is brownfield, it would be a heck of a lot better than taking down all the trees that are on this pristine property. Also, when you have the leaching fields, that's another problem, because that flows right out into the bay. And then we get our brown tides. We get all of these environmental issues that we just don't want to have to deal with. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Sean Lehman.
I'll submit my speech afterwards. My name is Sean Lehman. I am president of the Kings Park Civic Association. I reside at 27 Columbine Lane in Kings Park. Supervisor Vecchio, members of the town board, St. Johnland has been a provider of much-needed health care for those who reside in and out of the community, and the Kings Park Civic Association appreciates their services. We would like to make it perfectly clear the Kings Park Civic Association agrees that there is a need for senior housing in Kings Park. I repeat, we agree that there is a need for senior housing in Kings Park. However, we cannot support this project due to its sheer size and its location. I was hoping that St. John representatives would have a picture of their, on their website. They have the front of the complex, where it's 3 stories. This is the second picture. This is 4 stories. That's because the property is sloped. And don't forget, there's a parking garage with 104 spaces somewhere underground, near the pond. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry, but the 4 stories are what the Shivaks are going to be looking at behind their house, or the Googles next door. The Ryans up on Lynn Oak Lane will also see it as they leave their house. You see, the 50 acres are the lowest point in that area. Everywhere else is above it. Now, St. John's lawyers might argue that there will be a 200-foot buffer behind the homes on Twin Oaks Drive. But I've been in the backyards just this past weekend. Now, with the leaves all falling on the ground, you might as well build that facility right here. This project is massive. It's out of character with our area. But why such a tall facility? Why all these floors? Because the 50-acre property has so many environmental conditions. Its location in the Nisquaga River corridor, slopes, wetlands, shallow groundwater, and a freshwater pond, that they had no choice but to go up instead of out. So when the newspaper ad stated that they have an eye on conservation, preserving almost 50% of the property's wooded acres, it's because they had to. As a matter of fact, there are so many zoning changes and variances needed to construct this facility on this site, it is unprecedented. Here's what they need to move forward: a creation of a new zoning category, a zone change, a land transfer for sewer effluent, 6 town board special exception variances, a variance for building on steep slopes, a variance for building on areas with groundwater less than 10 feet below ground surface, a variance for gross floor area, a variance for natural buffer zone, a variance for a parking garage, a variance for building height, and others they will surely find to need along the way. And lastly, a final project approval. Now that's a lot. I think you guys would agree with that. I'm almost done. The Kings Park Civic Association has stated for the past few years that these 50 acres are too environmentally sensitive to allow for such intense development. Even the draft environmental impact statement, this big book, is massive. Nobody in the town's ever seen one like this before. We've talked to everyone. We couldn't take on something this size by ourselves, so we had to hire an expert in the field to go over it with us. His name is Daniel Carpenter, and he'll be speaking shortly. Unlike St. Johnland, who has over $52 million in their bank account, it was not easy for us to ask the residents to spend their money to hire an expert. So let me just finish by saying the Civic Association supports bringing senior housing to Kings Park. We would love to see this housing project happen, maybe on the property nearby that everybody is mentioning. It can be done. For years, the excuse has been, we can't do it. It's state-owned property. But yet, 3 of our town board members right now are negotiating with the county executive to bring research and development on the property. They could absolutely include this. So the carpenters that are back there and all the other tradesmen, you should be directing your attention to these guys, because they are negotiating with the county executive. They are negotiating for research and development. St. Johnland could have a beautiful campus.
Sean.
All right.
Sean, you're way over 3 minutes.
Yes.
And you should be addressing the board, not the audience.
You're right, I'm sorry. So let me just finish by saying that the Kings Park Civic Association supports senior housing in Kings Park. We would support this project in the right location, but I'm sorry, at this location, we are opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Hesselberg.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Hesselberg. I reside at 15 Heather Drive in Kings Park. Been a lifelong Smithtown resident. Grew up in the Hopog side of town. This project in the Nesquire River Corridor, which is a recreational river under the Wild, Scenic, and Recreation River System under the Environmental Conservation Law 15-2714. The draft environmental impact statement, the DEIS, provides the attached map showing that generally the eastern half of the property is in the Nesquire River Corridor. The DEIS acknowledges that a permit may be required from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. However, the DEIS never properly compared the legally permitted uses as outlined in 6 NYCRR 666 with the project concept. St. John's is an institution, and a planned use must be considered as institutional and not a pure residential use. The use of the guidelines at 6 NYCRR 666.13K does not permit certain commercial, industrial, institutional uses within 500 feet of a wetland. Structures in the Nesquire River Corridor also cannot exceed 34 feet in height. Commercial, industrial, and institutional uses may not exceed water usage equivalent to that of the residential development permitted on the lot under this part. These criteria are not met with regards to the upland projects. It is highly unlikely that the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation would ever permit this project under the Wild, Scenic, and Recreation River Systems. Beyond that, as a lifelong resident of Smithtown, those of you who will remember the floods that used to take place while we developed the area that was formerly Yellow Top Farm Stands. I grew up in that neighborhood. I used to play hockey on that land because the land used to flood. That land was near the Nesquire River Corridor, but not actually attached to it because it was a farmland. For years and years after we developed that land, not within 500 feet, but within quarter mile, half mile of where that river runs, where was projects and there was flooding. This is not just about the people who live right nearby. One of the issues with environmental law is that we don't always understand the environment. Even that picture is no longer valid because of the damage, the water damage that took place from the storm. There's actually now a river that flows into the Kings Park, into the Sunken Meadow State Park that wasn't there before. We do not understand the water. We do not understand all of the underground river systems associated with the Nesquire River system. If we did, we wouldn't have caused flooding 35, 40 years ago when we built upon the former Yellow Top Farm Stands. Until we understand that, you should not even remotely consider how this could impact not just the land surrounding that property, but where that water will go, because we simply don't understand how the water flows underneath the ground in which we walk upon. Thank you.
Corlin Nedwick.
Good evening, Supervisor Vecchio and Town Board members. My name is Corlin Nedwick. I reside at 19 Heather Drive, Kings Park. There are two positive declarations with regard to this project. A positive declaration is a notice of intent to prepare an environmental impact statement, EIS. The positive declaration to change the zone is dated December 18th, 2007. The positive declaration to set up the new zoning category for the CCRC is dated February 28th, 2008. These documents are attached to my comments. It is illegal to combine a generic EIS with a site-specific EIS. C6 NYCRR 617-10 attached to these comments. The generic EIS to set up the CCRC zone should be prepared by the town of Smithtown, not the applicant, as was done here. As a result, both positive declarations and the draft environmental impact statement are null and void. On a personal note, I grew up in Mineola. My husband grew up in Glen Cove. When we had our family, we decided we wanted a place that was rural, where our kids could have a good time, enjoy nature. We chose Kings Park because the park was in Kings Park. We love where we live. My son is now grown. My husband has cancer. We might need senior living in the future, senior housing. but we will not be able to afford to move into this area, the uplands, because our house will be worth nothing. I understand the houses will range from 300,000 to 800,000. We will be lucky if we get 200,000 for our beautiful home that we love. Please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne Chickvack.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Chickvack, and I reside at 23 Twin Oaks Drive. I'm a 30-year resident of Kings Park, and I am a registered voter. I never miss an election, and I ask you to please, at this time, listen to your constituents, the people who vote for you, not Greenbrier, which is a multi-million-dollar corporation, who will be gone back to Dallas and leave us with this mess. The leaching field for the additional volume of expected sewerage is proposed on a 5-acre parcel of land north of Sunken Meadow Road. The land is situated in a conservation zone under the local waterfront revitalization program. Approval is required from the Department of State in order to use this property for these purposes. The Department of State was never notified as an involved agency, as it was never sent a copy of the positive declaration. Attached to my comments is a copy of the positive declaration dated December 18, 2007. Hence, the Department of State does not have the legal authority under SECRA to approve the use of this land as a leaching field. And lastly, I ask you to please consider the voters of this town.
Cassandra Google.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Google, and I reside at 25 Twin Oaks Drive in Kings Park. The town is being asked to change the zoning of the 50 acres where St. Johnland wants to build the uplands from 1-acre residential to retirement community. It would be a mistake to do so. I urge this board to maintain the current zoning. If this board decides to allow the change, it will start down a very slippery slope. It will be setting a dangerous precedent which will be harmful to both the town and the residents. If St. Johnland is allowed to create its 200 multifamily complex, how desirable will the 36-plus undeveloped acres that St. Johnland owns across the street be to anyone? It will not be. How will it ever reasonably be developed in the future? It cannot be. Low-density development is critical in this area for so many reasons, including the fact that these woodlands and wetlands fall within the Nisququag River Corridor and the LWRP Conservation Zone. How will low-density development be achieved with a multifamily housing across the street? It will not be. Every inch of property surrounding the Uplands project will be detrimentally affected if the town allows this zone change. Again, I urge this board to maintain the current zoning on this property. Thank you.
Thank you. George DeBin.
My name is George Devon. I reside at 28 Twin Oaks Drive, Kings Park. I wanted to talk about the leaching fields as well. This land is situated in a conservation zone under the local waterfront revitalization program. Unlike traditional zoning laws where variances are handed out on a routine basis, the Department of State treats LWRPs as zoning documents which are carved in stone. Thus, it is impossible to obtain a variance to use the 5-acre parcel on the north side of Sunken Meadow Road as a leaching field. And I just want to remind everybody, right next to this is where the Greenbelt trails are. It's the trails where Kings Park High School students use for the track team. And it would just be a tragedy to do this. They're talking about 38,000 gallons per day of sewage. And I have a house upstate, and I have leach fields in the back. And when it rains, it stinks, just like this project. Thank you.
Brendan McKenna. Brendan McKenna.
Good evening, Supervisor Vecchio, members of the town board. Why even consider a zone change from a 1 acre residential to a CCRC when the applicant doesn't even plan on following the rules? They're requesting a zone change in order to circumvent the law and then intend on trying to circumvent the zone change by seeking 6 exception variances, which include building on steep slopes, building on areas with groundwater less than 10 feet below the surface, additional gross floor area, change of natural buffer zone, addition of a parking garage, and a building height of 50 feet. So they want to change the rules but don't intend to follow them. This is so disingenuous. These variances are excessive and precedent setting and will not only lead to overdevelopment and significant change in character of this site, but to other potential sites in the future. The variance for a parking garage should be dead on arrival. It's simply not permitted in the district that the applicant is requesting. Why would we even consider letting anyone build in the area where the groundwater is less than 10 feet below the surface? Have we not learned our lesson about the consequences of building in an area with a high water table, especially so close to the Nisququag River? Do we really want to disturb environmentally sensitive lands and allow a 5-story building in a suburban residential area? I mean, I live 1 block away from here, and I've lived here for 4 years. Part of the attractiveness of that area was coming to a more rural space. I grew up in Nassau County, and I've seen too many areas like this be overdeveloped and gone forever. As far as I'm concerned, the green belt may run through Sunken Meadow, but this property is part of the green belt to me. I live right around the corner. It's all wooded. So I think it would be a shame to allow this to move forward. Thank you.
I can't make out the last name. The first name is Deirdre.
Bolin, B-O-L-E-N.
Okay. The O is with the L, so it's like a D. I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Deirdre Bolin. I live at 20 Cedar Place in Kings Park. And I do want to say that I've lived within a half a mile of this pond for the last 36 years of my life, and I know the area very well. There are 2 positive declarations with regard to this project. A positive declaration is a notice of intent to prepare an environmental impact EIS. The positive declaration to change the zone is dated December 18th, 2007. The positive declaration to set up the new zoning category for the CCRC is dated February 28th, 2008. These positive declarations are out of order. The generic EIS is supposed to be completed prior to the preparation of the site-specific EIS. See CNYCRR C17.10 attached to these comments. As a result, both the positive declarations and the draft impact statement are null and void. I would also like to say that if St. Johnlin was positive that the community would be behind them in developing this process, why didn't they invite the people to come as part of the advertisement that's been in the papers for the past couple of weeks? They did not mention that this meeting was going to come, that was going to happen. So they didn't invite anyone to come down and speak for them. They knew that this project would not be approved by the neighbors. Thank you very much.
Charles Bolin.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Bolin. I live at 20 Cedar Place in Kings Park. I'd like to speak tonight about one of the significant problems within the draft environmental impact study. A significant problem within this study is that LIPA, as a state agency under SECRA, was never notified as an involved agency, as LIPA was never sent a copy of the positive declaration. As a result, LIPA does not have any legal authority to relocate the primary line that goes through the center of the property along Cottage Road, nor can LIPA legally supply electricity to the project. A copy of this positive declaration dated December 18th, 2007 is attached to these comments. In addition, a hickory tree fell during Hurricane Sandy, severing the power line. LIPA put up a new pole as an emergency action under SECRA Type 2 actions. I've attached a copy to these comments as a photo of the new pole installed by LIPA. I'd like to ask that the board not grant any of these zone variances and look for a more appropriate site for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Delaney.
Good evening. My name is Janet Delaney. I
Could you pull
live.
that down?
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Janet Delaney. I live at 19 Oak Hill Lane in Kings Park. I've lived here for 36 years. The draft environmental impact statement for the Uplands project does not include an inventory of all the birds' nests on the property. The New York State Environmental Conservation Law 2-05055 requires that, and I quote, "No person shall rob or willfully destroy a nest of any protected bird unless a permit shall first be obtained from the department." I belong to the Long Island Parrot Society. I feel very close to this. It does not matter if a bird's nest is occupied or unoccupied, as birds often may leave a nest for short periods of time, or in the case of an osprey, may return to the same nest from year to year. A permit is required to disturb each bird nest, for which the applicant has failed to note in the preparation of the DEIS. Each bird nest must be specifically located on the property. Thank you.
Michael Lewis. Michael Lewis.
Good evening. My name is Michael Lewis. I live at Raleigh Lane in Kings Park, but I grew up on Twin Oaks Drive. There are so many legal issues associated with this project that the town of Smithtown should stop wasting taxpayer dollars with continuing to review this project. SEQA regulations in Chapter 6 of New York Codes, Rules, and Regulations provide that the final environmental impact statement must be prepared within 45 calendar days after the close of any hearing or within the 60 calendar days after the filing of the draft EIS, whichever occurs later. The regulations also provide that the final date may be extended if problems with the proposed action requiring material reconsideration or modification have been identified. Such problems have been identified with this project. This project is doomed to failure, and the town must terminate its review now and must begin to consider other viable alternatives. All that being said, as an outdoorsman, a hunter, a fisherman, a volunteer for New York State DEC, I can tell you that the #1 cause of a decline of a wildlife population is a loss of habitat. The reason why there's so many deer running around Kings Park is because through the 90s and the 2000s, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 to 2,000 homes a year were built in the town of Brookhaven. Now, I'm not just an outdoorsman, I'm also a land surveyor, a licensed land surveyor. So I understand the importance of development in keeping the economy going, in keeping the trade unions in business. But I also know that builders love to knock down trees because it's cheaper rather than rehabilitate existing properties the way they have to do it in Nassau County and Queens and in the 5 boroughs. There are no more trees to knock down. So they have to rehabilitate existing buildings, existing lots. Okay? I grew up playing hockey on that pond. I would love to take my 10-month-old son to play hockey on that pond. This project is an environmental disaster waiting to happen. I have 15 years of experience of watching builders knock down trees, but I've also been the surveyor they call in to say, fix this flooding problem, why is it flooding? The rush is to build, but the rush is not to say, well, what's going to happen 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And I can tell you what's going to happen, an environmental disaster. Thank you.
William Google.
William Google. I live at 25 Twin Oaks Drive. According to the applicant, the 5+ acre leaching field north of Sunken Meadow Road is necessary for this project to be built. According to the applicant's DEIS, it is anticipated that the entirety of the 5+ acre site will be cleared for this installation of the leaching field. The town's own code prohibits this action. These 5 acres are indisputably situated in a conservation zone under the local waterfront revitalization program. Section 248-31C-282 of the Smithtown Town Code deals with town's local waterfront revitalization program. According to this law, notwithstanding any other provision in the chapter of the Town Code, all subdivisions within the local waterfront area shall conform to the following requirements. A, all subdivisions shall be clustered pursuant to Section 281 of the Town Law of the State of New York, such that the subdivision conforms to the LWRP's adopted land use plan. Clearing an entire 5+ acre parcel of land in a protected conservation zone to house a leaching field for a 200 multifamily housing project is both in direct conflict and non-compliance with the town's own law. The argument the applicant makes is that this is the only area for the leaching field and it's without merit. The applicant claims that the project is in non-conflict with the land use. This is untrue. The leaching field is in direct conflict with the town's land use plan and town code.
Richard Gorbecki.
Good evening, Supervisor Vecchio and members of the Town Board. My name is Rich Gorbecki. I reside at 27 Twin Oaks Drive in Kings Park. And I just want to state that this Uplands project is going to have a substantial adverse impact on the entire Kings Park community. And the potential destructive impacts include the widening, curbing, and grading of Sunken Meadow Road and Old Dock Road, the addition of bulk and mass buildings in our community, a significant extension to all of our town services, such as police, volunteer firemen, EMS, and our hospital services, an increase in traffic, especially in and around the Kings Park schools, particularly the RJO and the middle school, the entire Charter Oaks community, and the T-section community of Fort Salonga. It will create significant wear and tear on our roadways, damage to our ecology, including loss of habitat for our birds, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians. Additional groundwater pollution from fertilizers, pesticides, de-icing salts, motor vehicle oil, brake fluids, coolants, and much more, with an increase in solid waste, which will add up to tons per day. Sewage is a very significant problem regarding this project. A project of this size requires its own sewage treatment facility. This, however, would cause a significant downsizing to the Uplands project, which is apparently why it was not considered. Instead, a controversial leaching area in a protected conservation zone is being proposed. This is illegal pursuant to the town's local waterfront revitalization plan. This is unacceptable to the residents of Kings Park, and it should be unacceptable to this town board. Thank you.
Christine Costa.
Good evening, Supervisor Vecchio and the members of the Town Board. My name is Christine Costa. I reside at 19 Twin Oaks Drive. This project will forever change the character of our community. There'll be a loss of long views across this property. It will create a greater sense of density along our local roads. This is not the image our community wants. We value the present character of our community, nature, wildlife, wetlands, and we want to preserve these key features which we believe makes Kings Park such an attractive place to live and raise a family. It will have a devastating impact on this natural area, especially the woodlands and wetlands. This project is too intensive for the environmentally sensitive land that it would sit upon. It would eternally change the character of our community, something we never anticipated would happen, as it has been zoned residential since as far as we remember, and as long as we have lived in our community. Its negative impact would be far too great to us, our neighbors, and our community. And on a personal level, I've lived in Kings Park for 43 years. I've lived in my current home for 17. Both my families and my in-laws live there, and I've been a business owner for 10 years. So when I've needed to make changes to a home, to a business, and had to approach the town, whether it be the zoning board, whatever you had to, it always seemed a long process. But being a public administrator, being a public servant myself, I understood the need for the rules, the process, and the time frame that things took, while it can be frustrating. And in the end, I think Smithtown has done a terrific job of always trying to keep the community and the community's interests at heart. You ride down Main Street. We've tried to keep the character of our community. I hope the same process, I'm afraid that the same process isn't happening for this project. I would like it to just be that you do it to the best interest, it takes a long time, and we question it each step of the way, what's really good in the long term for Kings Park and the town of Smithtown as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Chickvack.
Supervisor Vecchio, I have some maps that I'd like to
Sure.
hand to you gentlemen.
Sure. You can go.
Okay. My name is Michael Chickvack. I reside at 23 Twin Oaks Drive in Kings Park. And I am here to speak about the facts and information presented in the 222-page traffic impact study that appears as Appendix L of the DEIS. The two options studied in the traffic impact study are the no-build option number 1 with 21 single-family residences and the build option number 2 with 199 residents. The traffic study includes the study of 3 intersections with no traffic signals. The first unsignalized intersection is at Sunken Meadow Road and the east driveway of the nursing home. The second is at Sunken Meadow Road and the west driveway of the nursing home. The third is at Sunken Meadow Road and Core Road, a half-mile away from the Uplands development. The report does not include Twin Oaks Drive, the street that makes up the western boundary of the Uplands project. Twin Oaks Drive appears, if you'll notice, on location map that's attached. It's called Figure 2. It's the first map in your packet. Twin Oaks Drive appears there, but it does not appear on any of the 3 build option number 3 traffic study maps, which are the subsequent 3 maps that you have in your packets. My question to you gentlemen is for you to consider, how could the engineering company of Nelson and Pope ignore the existence of Twin Oaks Drive in their study? What are they trying to hide in their traffic study? There will be 287 people coming and going from the Uplands development. How many of those residents will be driving on Twin Oaks Drive, one of only 2 roads leading to town? Why didn't the traffic engineers count those cars? Please look at those maps at your leisure. Notice that Twin Oaks Drive does not exist in any of those 3 maps, and ask yourselves why Twin Oaks Drive isn't on any of those maps. And then ask yourselves whether this traffic study is fair, accurate, and valid, or is this traffic study an unfair, inaccurate, invalid compilation of baseless, worthless, useless paper? The 220-page traffic study is so seriously flawed that it should be considered a useless document. This project should not move forward because there is no valid traffic study. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Bill Chalgren. Did I say that correctly? Chalgren, sorry.
Supervisor Vecchio and Councilman. I'm here, my name is William Chalgren. I reside at 51 Twin Oaks, and I'm here to address the parking garage. Under the code of the Town of Smithtown, 322-8 use regulations, no building or structure or part thereof shall be erected or altered or used, and no lot or land or part thereof shall be used except for the purpose specifically permitted by the table of use regulations in the district to which said building, structure, lot, or land is located. Under the town's table of use regulations, a parking garage is only permitted in WSI and LI pursuant to Smithtown Code, not RC. According to the Uplands at St. Johnland, change of zone application draft EIS page 2 through 7, which I'll have in the attachment that I'll hand out, the proposed project includes a subsurface parking garage in an independent living building with 104 spaces. In order to accommodate the required parking, including land bank spaces, the underground parking garage is required. This underground parking garage is not a permitted use under RC, and therefore require a use variance. Under the Code of Smithtown, 322-83A, variances, use variances pursuant to 267B2 of the town law, no use variances shall be granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals without a showing by the applicant that applicable zoning regulations and restrictions have caused unnecessary hardship. As parking garage is not a permitted use under RC, the applicant would therefore need to obtain a use variance from the Town of Smithtown Zoning Board of Appeals. Excuse me. The required conditions of a proper granting of a use variance remains very difficult to meet. The test is so rigid as to make it impossible under the conditions of this project. The applicant must demonstrate through financial documentation that they are unable to realize a reasonable rate of return from any of the permitted uses for the property in question. The condition causing this inability cannot be self-created and must be unique to the specific property in question. Even if these conditions are met, the granting of the variance cannot cause a change in character of the community. Moreover, state law section 267B2 requires that the Board of Appeals grant the minimum variance necessary and adequate, and at the same time preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood, health, safety, and welfare of the community. An underground parking garage with 104 spaces is not in no way in keeping with the character of a residential 1 acre zone single home community. The use of a parking garage in this project would be dead on arrival. Therefore, the necessary minimum parking spaces required by town zoning code for this project will not be met. In total, 531 spaces. This project contains so many pitfalls, it hinges on so many pie-in-the-sky legal maneuvers as to make it nothing more than a burden on the taxpayers of this community if the town and the applicant continue to move forward in this manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Carpin.
Town clerk, identify yourself.
Right here.
Town attorney, identify yourself. Stenographer.
Nope.
My name is Daniel Carpin, professional engineer. I reside at 3 Harbor Hill Drive, Huntington, New York. Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, yesterday, the date of this petition to formally amend the New York State freshwater wetlands maps of Suffolk County in the town of Smithtown. It has been sent in yesterday's mail to Joe Martins, Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation, Albany, and to Peter Scully, Regional Director, Region 1. It asks the following. 1. A request for a formal public hearing before an administrative law judge in the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to formally remap and add significant freshwater wetlands on the south side of Sunken Meadow Road, approximately 1/3 mile west of Old Dock Road in Kings Park, Suffolk County, as promulgated pursuant to Article 24 of the Environmental Conservation Law, the Freshwater Wetlands Act, by the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation on May 26, 1993. 2. Said freshwater wetlands sufficiently significant to be formally mapped. 3. A request that such mapping be significant occur under the auspices of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, Article 8 of Environmental Conservation Law. 4. A request that the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, being the agency with expertise in freshwater wetlands mapping, be designated the lead agency for such remapping and other associated actions associated with the mapping of said freshwater wetlands. 5. A request that the Department that an environmental impact statement be prepared for such mapping and include any subsequent actions which may be related to the mapping. 6. A request that all public hearings held by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation take place in the town of Smithtown, close to the site being mapped by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Turn to paragraph number 14 and 15. I only have 14 seconds left. You can read them on your own. Basically, stops the project dead cold because of freshwater wetlands must be mapped before anything else could occur. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Linda Henninger.
Supervisor Vecchio, Town Board members, hi, my name is Linda Henninger. I reside at 1 Meadowood Lane, Fort Salonga, New York, 11768. I speak here today as a member of the Kings Park Civic Association and as a resident. St. John Land recently placed an ad in local papers entitled An Important Message to Our Community. There is no question that St. John Land has cared for thousands of local individuals who have placed their trust and confidence in them, and they've done so skillfully. But also in that ad, St. John Land states prominently that it will be paying approximately $1.29 million in taxes annually, which will include an estimated $800,000 to the Kings Park School District. For background, St. John Land is a nonprofit based on its designation as a healthcare facility. As such, it's tax exempt. It is important to note that St. John Land does not pay taxes on the 50 acres in question, which is currently zoned 1 acre residential. Smithtown Assessor Peter Johnson just confirmed that the 50 acres has an assessed value of $38,000. Applying the current tax rate, if you or I own the property, we'd be paying about $70,000 in taxes annually. The DEIS, St. John Land notes, the subject property is currently owned by a health care facility and is exempt from paying property taxes. However, upon full build-out of the proposed project, the tax assessor's office assumes that property will yield property taxes of approximately $1.29 million. Also in the DEIS, private facilities other than nonprofit operators would generate tax revenue that would accrue to the school district to increase the tax base. However, the applicant has neither agreed nor will be bound. This is what it says in the draft environmental impact statement. The applicant has neither agreed nor will be bound to this assessment and/or tax figures. The estimates and projections provided here are preliminary, and the final assessment and levy will be determined by the sole assessor, coupled with negotiations with the applicant at the time of occupancy. And the negotiations have already begun. Looking at the letter from Peter Johnson to Mr. Trimarco, St. John's attorney, dated June 12, 2012, the following is written. As a follow-up to my recent meeting with you and your clients, this will serve to confirm receipt of proposed site plan and description to the above project. Pursuant to your request, this office has reviewed and revised its previous estimate of the foregoing, together with relevant market rental and building cost data. I am told by Mr. Johnson that his initial tax estimate was 3 to 4 times higher than the current $1.29 million. So already a reduction in taxes of $3.9 million, and we haven't even gotten through the public comments yet. And on behalf of the Civic Association, I would like to put on the record tonight that we object to Smithtown Town Attorney John Zollo's appearance at tonight's proceedings. As the board is aware, the Civic Association has sent a letter seeking Mr. Zollo's recusal from any and all proceedings.
Okay.
Just 2 seconds.
You've objected, it's okay, it's
Well,
noted.
we await the town's formal response to this request.
Thank you.
Shouldn't have been here.
I can't read the last name, Chris, 40 Twin Oaks Drive.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Chris Burrell. I live at 40 Twin Oaks Drive. The people here from Twin Oaks Drive here may sound like they have a not in my backyard thing, or people may diminish the validity of their arguments because they live on the next block. That's not fair. It's an unfair thing to do. You have to have all out-of-towners here to make the arguments against this thing if you were to discount them. First thing I want to address is the infrastructure. A couple people are up here talking about St. Johnland, Old Dock Road, Sunken Meadow Road, Core Road, and Twin Oaks Drive. I didn't know that Twin Oaks Drive was left off of the traffic impact study. First of all, that road right now is used as a cut-through. I can't imagine what it's going to become. Core Road continues. Well, that will also be used as a cut-through as well. Once people figure out they don't have to go down 25A and make a right into Sunken Meadow Road. I can't imagine what the traffic's going to be on Sunken Meadow Road. Old Dock Road is a disaster. St. Johnland is really not, it doesn't help anybody getting off any of the parkways. So we're going to bear the brunt of the traffic that's going to be increased there. Additionally, and in deference to everybody here who suggested developing the Psych Center, the infrastructure is not there. You're talking about a 2-lane road in and out in both directions and a 2-lane road leading down to 25A. The Psych Center, this particular parcel of land, just not conducive to mass development like they're talking about here, all right? When they got this property, they either bought it or deeded it subject to the zoning laws. We all bought our houses, people who live here, subject to the zoning laws. We knew what we were getting into when we bought our properties. These people did too, but they got lawyers and money and millions of dollars behind them to try to influence the board to try to change the zoning. They knew what they were getting into when they bought this property. If they want to build 50 houses, 1-acre zoning, knock yourselves out, fellas. Okay? It's not fair that they're able to turn around and just back money after money after money to change the zoning. They knew what they were getting into. Plain and simple. And we all did when we bought our properties. Half-acre, 1-acre, whatever it is. All right? And something else that really scares me is that if you were to do the right thing and you were to turn this project down, okay, and I've seen this happen in other municipalities, they come back with a scaled-down version, and everybody's happy because, well, you know what, it wasn't as bad as the big one. That's nonsense. Nothing should be built there except 1-acre housing. That's what they bought. Thank you.
Jan Porenchak.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening, Supervisor Vecchio. It's been a long day. And members of the board. My name is Jan Porinchak. And I reside here with my wife and 3 children in Kings Park. We've lived here now for 8 years, since our youngest was born. And the key reason that we moved here, as many other people have mentioned, is because of the character of this community, and specifically the open spaces that grace our town and contribute to that character. The quality of the parkland we have access to in this community is unique in Western Suffolk. In fact, open space is becoming ever more rare on Long Island as a whole. And in light of the unabated building throughout Long Island, I would describe the parcel of land that we're discussing tonight as nothing less than precious. They ain't making any more of it. The benefits of open space are many and benefit all, including, as some people mention, children, and let's think about the future generations that are going to live in our town as well. On the other hand, development of whatever form usually only benefits a few and comes with a cost. And that cost will not be ours alone. The decision we make about this pond, woodland, wetland, animals, and plants will affect generations to come in this town. We need to make the right decision, because there will be no do-overs. If this land is cleared and altered, it will be permanent. So let's decide about what our role is going to be in this community. The question is, are we squatters or are we stewards? Squatters take little interest in the condition of their home and their environment. They take advantage of its resources and make few, if any, plans for its maintenance beyond their immediate needs. When those resources are used up, they move on. Squatters think little of the welfare of those who come after them. I'd like to think of myself and everyone here as a steward. Stewards maintain their home, they make plans to improve their home, and to leave their environment in at least as good condition, if not better, than as they found it. They are concerned about their legacy. We need to be stewards of this pond, stewards of the woodland around it. Our natural areas are as much a part of our community infrastructure as the roofs over our heads and the foundations under our feet. This land is not disposable. We need to come to the realization that it is not an empty parcel of land that we need to improve. That's the sort of frontier mentality that has characterized Long Island's development for too long and left us with suburban sprawl. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike D'Souza.
How are you?
Good.
Good evening. My name is Mike D'Souza. I reside at 167 Boxwood, Kings Park. I've been a resident of town for too long. I can't even remember, 45, 46 years. And I would be opposed to this project, as well as my daughters and a bunch of other people that live in my area of Hillside Terrace, even though we don't even abut this project as far as being close to Twin Oaks Road. For one thing, I travel back and forth all the time on Sunken Meadow Road. I would say I'm on that road 3-4 times a day. It's a dangerous, winding road. I cannot imagine how they could build. First of all, the 2 exits from the existing nursing home are extremely dangerous. A lot of people that work there pull out sometimes without even looking. It's a winding road. So unless the town is prepared to straighten the entire road and add 2 or 3 lanes, it's going to be an extremely dangerous situation. Now, in addition to that, you have the fact that I think new paradigms have been set in motion since Superstorm Sandy. We need work for these workers. I see everybody from the electrical union, carpenters union. I think there is an unbelievable amount of work to be done on the South Shore of Long Island. I mean, it is beyond the beyond. And up here, we need to cut trees. A woman just told me the other day, Sheila Geraci, lives up on 25A near Soundview. She said one of the LIPA guys that came from California, Colorado, Texas, Florida, I don't know where, we had to depend upon people all over the country to repair work. LIPA, she says, that their equipment was totally outdated. The town has been remiss. I can't tell you how many times I have made calls to this town to cut back trees on all of our town roads, and nothing has been done. Quite frankly, nothing has been done. Now, we plan to do something a little bit better this time. Well, I think we have to look forward for my grandchildren over here. And if I want a better world for them, then we have to look at other projects. Forget this project right now. If you want to create senior citizen housing, it makes much more sense to do something on the existing Kings Park Hospital property. All one has to do is to look at the Kings Park Hospital property and see how wide open it is. It would be great for seniors to be walking around on that property. This is a dangerous situation to put any new project that you have in mind here. Absolutely dangerous. I can testify 100% to that. There's no doubt in my mind. Also, maybe coming down Old Dock Road, just north of the middle school. I was always thinking if you built cul-de-sacs off of that, that would be a great place to put some senior housing. But
Thank
right
you.
now, let's look forward to a better tomorrow by working as hard as we can to turn this project down. Thank you.
Claudette. First name is Claudette.